As we start this out, just kind of in the general way these addresses have gone before, I want to point out to everyone that there's a lot of information on these slides that I hope that you'll go back and look at later, because I have no intention of reading or reviewing everything. One of the most important things for everyone to realize is the number of new leaders we have on the campus in very key positions this year. A number of new deans, a new athletic director. So please make yourself aware and step up and offer to help these people as they try to help the university move forward. So lots of folks, and they're all doing great things. So moving on, what I want to do today is first go through the successes and celebrate the successes of the pathway to success, and then move forward with a description of what we've been planning over the last year, what we're now calling There's More to Blue. So the first thing that I want everyone to understand as I go through this is the successes under the pathway to success are due to the concerted efforts of hundreds of people. There are clearly offices that played more prominent roles in some things than others, but you all deserve a great deal of compliments and credit for the success we've had. Just to look at our student enrollment and student success initiatives, we tried to write down all the offices that were involved to one degree or another. Tremendous effort, everything from the admissions office and new student programs to facilities and everything in between need to feel ownership of this success. We would not be where we are without everybody. We are viewed as a national leader in service. I think that we had put our chit in before 2008, but there's no doubt today that we are viewed as a national leader. In Washington Monthly, we had a #1 ranking last year. We got 1 million hours plus of service to our community. We've been on the President's Honor Roll every year since it began. The Center for Community Engagement has done great work in bringing us all together, faculty, staff, and students, to make sure that that happens. We went through a period that thankfully has slowed down somewhat, where we had a great number of new degree programs developed. That takes a lot of work on the campus. It takes a lot of work in Indianapolis to get the Commission for Higher Education to approve it. It takes a lot of work in many cases with accrediting groups to get them to approve our programs. So I'd like to thank everyone, and I hope we've got everybody's picture up here that was involved in developing all those new programs, because our enrollment growth is in big measure dependent on us making sure that we have the degree programs that students want and need. So thank you all that were involved in these new program developments. Please, let's have a round of applause here. I think we have internally made a commitment to inclusive excellence and diversity. And that commitment is visible in both the things that we have done in the past, the things that we have in motion, and the things that we are starting this year. Josh Powers just sent me an email yesterday that we have now concluded our RFP process to bring in consultants to help us with our student success initiatives and with our initiatives to bring in a more diverse faculty and staff. So things are happening. We as a campus are committed to that. And I think if you look around, if you look at the pictures that were on the screen a little bit earlier, you'll see that that's true. Let me move on to our master plan and looking in a retrospective manner for a second. If you've noticed a little bit of construction over the last 8 years, you weren't mistaken. We have had a huge number of projects, everything from tearing down Statesman Towers to renovation of University Hall and Federal Hall to a complete rework of Normal Hall and new construction in the case of our Reeve Hall that's now the home of many of our sororities. That took a lot of work. $300 million have been spent on completed projects in the last 8 years. That created 3,500 jobs in the construction community and kept many people, particularly those in the facilities area, very busy as they interfered with our ability to get around the campus and got the construction jobs done and done on time and on budget. We've also been able to work with our community partners. So we have helped make a significant difference in downtown Terre Haute with projects that we were directly involved with, like the Foundation, Barnes & Noble building, the 500 Wabash Student Residence Hall project, but also the Deming Hotel. The Deming Hotel would not be renovated today if it hadn't been for your success with goal number 1. The plans to renovate the Icon building over on the river would not be going on today if it were not for the success of goal number 1. And the project directly across Cherry Street from the College of Technology, which is called Highland Quarters, would not be going on without the success that we have had. So we are making a difference not only in the life of our campus, but also in the life of our community. We also have projects that are still underway. We kicked off a $64 million expansion and renovation of the Health and Human Services building this fall. That's going to be an incredible addition to our facilities in terms of homes for all of our existing and new programs in Health and Human Services. It also will become the face of the campus. When people turn off of 41, that's what they're going to see, and it's going to be exquisite. We're also in the early stages of a remodel and expansion of the Holman Center. Some pictures here show what it might look like. We hope that the design can be finished by spring, and hopefully sometime in 2017 we can actually begin construction. $75 million. Probably the one that I'm the happiest about today is Tony Petroleum. So if you haven't been on North 3rd Street, you should. Go up, just drive past, and you'll see that Tony Petroleum is coming down. And my understanding, it was 11 years. It isn't costing as much to tear it down as it took to tear down Statesman Towers, but it took longer to get them down than Statesman Towers. Those of you who live in the HHS or Arena building, that's going to become some parking for you and hopefully relieve some of the parking problems. I'm told, Kevin tells me that we're going to have a helicopter there so that when you park there, he's going to helicopter you over to 5th Street. But regardless, that's going to be parking and help relieve the big parking problems that I know we have on that northwest corner of the campus. So moving on then, one of the things that I think the beginning of this presentation shows is that this campus truly has a commitment to shared governance. So one of the things I'd like to do, or like you to leave here today with, is a knowledge that I am truly grateful for all of you who serve on the various governance boards of the campus, whether it's the faculty, the staff, or the students. The work you do helps make Indiana State better. It helps our students succeed. and I truly appreciate everything you do. Now, the Faculty Senate is the group that I probably work the most closely with, and I've got a little slideshow here. The pictures here are related to how long people have served, not how photogenic they are. So keep that in mind. Anybody know what's coming? So I would truly like to thank individually and collectively all those who have served on the Faculty Senate and the Faculty Senate Executive Committee over the last 8 years. And the same is true for the Staff Council and student government. Thank you all very much. Now, just so that no one feels left out here and doesn't get to be embarrassed by their picture. Well, first of all, thank you, Teresa, for doing all this. There was the idea here is we all take responsibility for our successes, and we have many, many of them. About 2 weeks ago now, I made a presentation in Bloomington. Don't go to Bloomington, by the way. They have no parking. Dealing with our budget request and our capital project requests for the next biennium. It's the first step, really, in preparing to go to the legislature in January and February, and the first step in what ultimately results in our budget for the next 2 years. In that request to the Commission for Higher Education, I've asked that they stop reducing our state appropriation and, in fact, give us an increase of 3%. I really wanted to say 6%, but I got talked out of it. But in that request, we also requested funding for a new capital project. That project will be the Fine Arts Building. We're asking for $15 million to renovate that building. And I would say that those of you who think your building is bad, if you must never have been on the second or third floor of the Fine Arts Building. So if you think your building is not so good, just wander over to the Fine Arts Building and go up into one of those classrooms. I would particularly suggest you do it in a nice 90-degree day. What we hope to be able to do over the next few years is get projects funded from the state on a fairly regular basis to do big projects like this, but we also hope to be able to continue to do projects like what's being done right now in the Science Building. If you've not been on the first floor of the Science Building, you should, because it shows what we can do with our buildings if we put a little money and effort into making it happen. So what we've asked the state for next year is approve the Fine Arts Building, funding of $15 million, and a modest increase in our state appropriation. And we'll know about that about May 1st. One of the things that we started last year was an Innovation and Collaboration Award. What I'd like to do now is introduce the winners of the 2016 Innovation and Collaboration Award. They are the representatives of the Molly R. Wheat Memorial Clinic, which is a collaboration between IU School of Medicine at Terre Haute, ISU, Union Hospital, and Union Hospital Family Medical Residency. So if the representatives of that group would come forward, I'd be happy to give you your award. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Oh, God, you have this. So here is your award. The clinic provides free services to many people in the Wabash Valley and Terre Haute, and we'd like to thank you very much. It fits in very well, what you're doing fits in very well with what we hope to do at Indiana State in general, and that is making sure that students are involved in what they're doing in the classroom in settings from clinical settings to industrial settings. So thank you very much and congratulations for all that you do.
Thank you.
I'd also like to put in a pitch for you all to support the United Way. We've had growing support for the United Way on campus. I don't know if Lisa Spence is here today, but Lisa, thank you for your last 2 years of service on the United Way. Lisa Moore joined Lisa Spence last year and has stepped forward and is leading the charge this year along with Willie Banks. So please support these folks. We have a goal of $55,000. There's a number of ways that you can support it. Everything from buying a button so you can wear jeans on Wednesday to getting a chance for a new car, and just so you think you don't never know anybody that's won it. Actually, Lisa Spence won it. Or did Josh Powers win it? One. Lisa won it. All right, so you can win. So increase your gift by at least $25 and you will have a chance at a car. Contributions can be done by cash, check, payroll deduction. My guess is if you go out to the United Way website, you can even use a credit or debit card. So please support the United Way, support the Willie and Lisa, and support the members of our community who need outside support. So, moving forward, more to blue. Many of you, maybe the majority of you, have been involved in some way over the last year in the planning for our new strategic plan. The strategic plan that we went through, the planning process we went through in the last year, I think is a much more sophisticated process than the process we went through 8 years ago. I think we learned a lot of things in that process and over this last 8 years. And not only that, but the successes of the last 8 years have encouraged us to be more aggressive and more thoughtful and deeper in our analysis of what we hope to accomplish as an institution. I hope that you see that in this plan as I kind of unveil it. And if you don't see it today, please have a look again at the slides later or come and talk to me because I think it's pretty cool. So first of all of our discussions are based on 3 documents: our mission, our vision, and our values. Most of them have not changed very much, but they've changed a little and maybe in substantial ways. So our mission going forward is that Indiana State is dedicated to teaching and the creation of knowledge while maintaining its long-standing commitment to inclusiveness, community and public service, and access to higher education. We integrate teaching, research, and creative activity in an engaging, challenging, and supportive learning environment to prepare productive citizens of the world. I think that's a great mission statement. It tells the world exactly what we think is our job. We have a vision. Our vision is that we're inspired by a shared commitment to improving our communities, improving our communities and inclusive excellence, and Indiana State will be known nationally for community engagement, experiential learning, and career readiness. Our core values are the ones that have changed the most. We've simplified them. The goal is that we might remember them. So our core values are diversity, scholarship, equity, inclusion, and excellence. And the way I like to think about it is that if we value diversity, scholarship, equity, and inclusion, we will be excellent. So you can think about it how you will, but that's what our values are. So as we move forward with building our strategic plan, the first thing we do is look at our mission. So our mission is our foundation. And we build on that mission with our with our pillars. And we have 4 pillars: experiential learning, inclusive excellence, community engagement, and career readiness. What that does is hold up our vision. I know that if we meet our mission and fulfill our pillars, our vision is going to happen. So here's our goals. If you look at them from the back of a galloping horse or a little bicycle or something, you won't notice much difference. But I think there's a lot of difference, and I'll go through that. But the things that are the same is that our student success is number 1, and number 6 is our employee success. Our students can't be successful unless you are successful, unless I'm successful. And we need to always keep that in mind. If you feel ever that I'm not keeping that in mind, please let me know. So goal number 1, student success. Pretty simple. We want to increase the number of students who are enrolled and earn degrees. I think that's a little subtle change in some senses. Basically, what we looked at last time was we wanted to increase the number of students. Clearly, the implicit message is we wanted to graduate more. Now we're saying we want to explicitly say that that's going to happen. And that goal number 1 is going to be chaired by Mike Licari and Willie Banks. Here is our benchmark goals. I won't go through all of them, but one thing you'll note is we want to continue to grow. Our goal in 2022 is a headcount enrollment of 16,000 students. I think if you look around in 2022, you'll find that that group of students is somewhat different than today's students, in large part because we think a lot of the growth is going to come in distance education. So we'll have more part-time students and we'll have more students at a distance. You can see that reflected in our distance degrees awarded goal, where the benchmark is that we would double the number of degrees awarded to distance education students over the next 5 or 6 years. Another major benchmark is that we want to close the gap between the graduation rate for our low-income students and the student body as a whole. Currently, our Pell students graduate in 6 years at 12% less than the student body as a whole. Our hope is over the next 6 years to cut that gap in half, and our vision is that that gap will disappear. To make that happen, we have to retain more freshmen. We have to get our overall graduation rate up. So this is what our graph needs to look like. So we look at enrollment going back to 2008 to today. If you extrapolate that, we didn't put a linear regression line through this, Steve, but it looks like it. So we need our average growth over the next 6 years to pretty much match what we've had in the last 6 years. One of the great successes, I guess, of the last 8 years is that for the last 25 or 30 years, the state has been beating on the various presidents and vice presidents of Indiana State that we were funded at too high a rate on a per student basis relative to the other institutions. So I've plotted that going back to 2009. We're the blue line, of course. You can see that in 2009, we were funded at a substantially higher rate than any other institution on a per student basis. But if you look at what's happened over the last 8 years or so, we have declined to where we're substantially less than Ball State, substantially less than Purdue, substantially less than IU. The big advantage for me is now when I go up to the legislature, the first question they ask me isn't, why are you so overfunded? Why shouldn't we cut you? Now I can make a strong argument that we deserve more funding, and that's what we're going to be doing. So, goal 1, how is it different than the past goal 1? I think it's much more explicit about student success. We are going to be on student success. We've had some success, but not what we need. So degree production is a big focus. Online degrees or distance degrees is a big focus. And there's going to be more focus on improving our results with at-risk students, low-income students. So what are the challenges? Well, the biggest challenge is that moving student success metrics is exceedingly difficult. We've made some progress, and I think we've got some things in place that are going to result in progress going forward, but it's not going to be easy. Second, there's increased competition for students. If you look nationally, there are 1 million fewer students in college today than there were 8 years ago. That means that every college president, every admissions director is out there looking harder for students because they all have the same issues that we do. That you've got this campus, you've got this group of employees, buildings, you need students. So we're going to have to work harder to make sure that it happens. We have to have better marketing, better recruiting, and when the students get here, we need to help them be successful all across the board. So when I say student support, that's everything from res life to academic areas to student services, everyone. We have a number of initiatives that we want to get started. Some of them are expansions of what we've been doing. We have an effort that began last year on degree completion. It turns out we have a number of students that are in their 3rd and 4th and 5th year that really haven't figured out a clear path to graduate. We now have individuals whose job it is to clear away the clutter so these people can figure out what they've got to do to graduate. Some cases, all it is change their major or decide that they don't want this minor anymore. In other cases, it's much more complicated than that. But we're going to have people who are totally focused on helping these students who have, if not lost their way, they're at least struggling in finding their way. We want to transition our honors program to an honors college. Our honors program is one of the great successes of the last few years. We have well over 1,000 students enrolled in our honors program this year. We need to improve the connectivity and engagement of our students. That means connecting the res life with academic affairs. It means connecting res life with student affairs. It means connecting students in Reeve Hall with students in Hines Hall. Goal 2, engage all students in applying the knowledge and skills learned in the classroom to real-life settings. That is going to be headed by Nancy Rogers and Susan Powers. I think the biggest metric that we have out here that is going to take a lot of effort is we want to double the number of internships, clinicals, and other work-based experiences that our students experience in a year. So going from 1,300 in 2015 to 2,500 in 2022. We also need to be watching better and getting more information about what happens to our students once they graduate. So the goal is when we do a post-graduation survey in 2022, we're going to get information from 80% of our students. We also need to do more bragging about what we're doing. So we're going to be looking at how many publications are we in, how many presentations do our employees give, and we need that number to grow. So how is Goal 2 different? Well, it's much more focused on career readiness. Career readiness is about things that probably are called soft skills by some people. It means that you don't show up for an interview in flip-flops and holey jeans. It means if your boss says, show up to work at 8 o'clock, you're there at 10 minutes to 8. It means that you don't have misspelled words on your resume. It means that you ask questions and do your best. It's a lot of the things that we think that people automatically know, but it turns out they don't. So we need to make sure that we help people develop those skills while they're with us, because once they leave, they represent us. And more than that, they pay our Social Security taxes so that we can all retire at some point. So we need to make sure that students not only have the academic skills, they have the social skills, they have the work skills that they need to be successful at whatever they do once they leave us. What are the challenges? I think one of the challenges is that this is a new area for us, and so we have to make sure that we build a commitment and a culture that says this is part of our responsibility. I will guarantee you that those in the legislature and the parents of the students that we have here think it's part of our responsibility. We have to internalize that and make sure we turn that around and make sure our students are ready. I think one of the things we'd like to do is have more STEM graduates. I guarantee you that there are a tremendous number of students who come here who would like to have a STEM degree. But when they come here, they find out they're not math ready, and they either stumble in our math classes or they avoid them because they already know that they're not math ready. We have to do a better job at preparing our students in mathematics. We can't depend on someone else to do it. It would be great if you could throw a switch and 2 or 3 times as many people coming out of high school are ready for calculus as there are today. It's not going to happen. It might happen in a decade or two, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen by 2022. So we have to deal with what we have. We need to be more successful at getting students involved in research and study abroad, but we're going to have to do it with models that don't cost the student or the institution as much money as what we've been doing today. Most of our students are relatively short on cash, and so is the institution. So anything that costs a lot of money is going to be of limited, we're only going to have limited participation in. So we've got to come up with some new models. So we have a number of initiatives. One of the big initiatives that I'm excited about with Goal 2 is involving our alumni more directly in the Career Center's activities, whether it's in career readiness activities, or helping us find internships or helping us find permanent jobs. We need to take advantage of all the things that our alumni can give us. Goal 3, community engagement and civic responsibility. We want to serve as a national model for improving the quality of life in our communities through lifelong engagement and civic action, and the civic action of our students, faculty, staff, and alumni. Nancy is taking the lead on this. We hope to maintain, if not grow, our national recognition as reflected in Washington Monthly and in the President's Honor Roll. We need to continue to grow the number of hours that our community donates to others in the Wabash Valley and beyond. We want to try to measure the participation of our students in civic life. Right now, the measure we're going to use is voting, but there are others. We just haven't quite identified them yet. But we also want to have an impact on education in the Wabash Valley, so getting involved in Vigo County schools and making measurements to try and see if we're actually having an impact, getting involved more directly in the health of our community are a couple of ways that we want to do this. How is this different than what we had 8 years ago? Primarily, it's different in that we actually want to measure the impact of our service. We're donating 1 million+ hours a year. It would be terrible if 10 years from now we can't detect any impact of that effort. So we need to be thinking about what are we doing and how is it impacting the people we're serving. We want to make a partnership with the Vigo County School Corporation. We're a university in a city of 60,000 people, in a county of slightly over 100,000 people. What can we bring to bear to help public education succeed? What are the challenges? Well, improving success of our students is difficult, and K-12 has even bigger problems in improving quality, so it's going to be difficult. In many cases, we're going to have to maintain our effort for a long time in order to actually measure success. So one of the things you'll see if you look at these measures, these benchmarks, some of them are short-term. One of them was to measure the pass rate in third grade reading. If you're not aware, in Indiana, third graders have to pass a reading test or they get to be third graders again. One of the things we're doing with Deming Elementary School is trying to help them improve their success rates. That's something every year you can see that happening. One of the other things we want to be involved in is increasing the college completion rate for Vigo County students. Well, it turns out it takes about 10 years to go from being a ninth grader to being a college graduate if we use a 6-year benchmark. So it'll take 10 years for us to really be able to say whatever changes occurred, we had something to do with. We also want to be able to measure the impact of all of our efforts on post-graduation behavior and post-graduation success of our graduates. This is something that is overwhelming in its complexity, but it's something that the state and federal government have said we have to be involved in. Not only that, but the Higher Learning Commission has said we have to be involved in this. We need to be able to measure after students leave here whether they're actually doing the jobs we prepare them for, whether they're engaged as citizens, whether there's actually true value to the community of Indiana or the United States for the fact these students got a college degree. Is it helping those students? Do they have a better life as a result? We're going to have to try and measure that. Luckily, there are 3,000 other institutions that are going to have to do it as well, because I think it's going to take a lot of effort by a lot of people to come up with the ways to do this properly. We want to continue in terms of our initiatives. We want to continue to focus on the Rives neighborhood because they're our neighbors. They also happen to be one of the poorest neighborhoods in the state of Indiana. We want to be involved in the United Way's Healthier by 2020 program. We want to use the American Democracy Project to encourage lifelong civic engagement. And we're going to try something different in that you've probably all heard about microloans in the third world. Well, microloans actually exist in the United States as well. They're not for 15 cents or $1.50. They're for a little bit more money. But small amounts of money often can make a big difference in the life of a startup company. So we're going to be in that business. We're going to be helped in that regard by the Small Business Administration, but it will be part of our economic development programs. Goal 4. Goal 4 is an area that we struggled with a little bit in the last strategic plan. It is where our Unbounded Possibilities Initiative existed. But Goal 4 is about distinctive programs and experiences. So we want to strengthen, leverage, and develop distinctive academic programs and experiences to better prepare students and bring greater prominence to the university. It's going to be led by John Beacon and Mike Licari. And in throwing a towel to those of you who hate quantitative measures, I've now said, okay, we'll have some semi-quantitative measures for this benchmark, or these benchmarks. So we have check minuses, checks, and check pluses. I haven't figured out how to put that into a numerical scale yet, but we'll work on it. We need to obtain national recognition of our distinctive programs. We need to develop distinctive programs in some areas that we don't have distinctive programs in now. How is it going to be different from what we do now? Well, we're going to focus on experiences. Our goal is to make our foundational studies program unique and better than what exists anywhere else. We're going to align better foundational studies with our vision and work at aligning that to our promotion and tenure and salary expectations with our vision. So we want to align everything with our vision. We also want to develop at least one program or group of programs in each college that are distinctive, programs that we can sell to the world as programs that either distinctive in that there are not many programs like it in the country, or we provide a different set of experiences and we have better prepared students that's demonstratable than what you would find in other parts of the country. What are the challenges? Well, I think one of the big challenges is we're not all convinced that having distinctive programs is a good idea. There are people who feel that all of our programs are wonderful and that's the way we need to make it. It turns out that all of our programs are not equally wonderful and not equally as distinctive. And if we try to sell ourselves as vanilla, that's how we'll be viewed. And that doesn't put us in a very good position competitively. So we have to admit and foster those among us who are doing things a little bit differently and maybe a little bit better than the rest of us. Not that we're not all doing well, just some people are doing a little better, right? But we're going to have to do it in a more clever way than we've been doing in the past. The best program in the College of Ed and the Networks program in the College of Business are very expensive programs. We are going to have to find some other models that will allow us to do things less expensively and within our budget. Uh-oh. Uh-huh. So what are our initiatives? One of the initiatives is going to be to build better market awareness of our programs of distinction. If you look at what we've been doing marketing, we've been marketing the entire university for the most part. We're going to have to focus on doing some marketing of our distinctive programs. We're going to have to revise promotion and tenure expectations. We're also going to have to make sure that everyone has the training, education, and the materials to make sure that we've aligned our curriculum with our vision, with our expectations. And we're going to put career readiness into all of our curriculum. Goal 5, resources and institutional effectiveness. This is the catch-all effort that has everything to do with money, which has everything to do with everything else. So we want to improve the utilization of university resources while expanding revenues and maintaining affordability. Short and simple, we have to do more with less. We're going to have to continue to slowly increase the student-faculty ratio and the student-staff ratio, and we're going to have to do it in a way that goes along with improving the results that we get, not a simple process. We're going to have to make sure that our IT functions are working at a high level. It's gotten to the point in most of our lives, if not all of our lives, that having the network operating is at least equivalent to having the lights working. And if that's true today, it's going to be more true when we have an extra 3,000 students working at a distance. We're going to have to make sure that college is affordable, particularly for students in the middle. Hence the benchmark with regard to the average cost, the average net price for students whose family income is in that $30,000 to $50,000 range. And we're going to have to continue to use some of our operating dollars to help maintain our campus, our building infrastructure. We have something on the order of 66 buildings on the campus, and we get to go to the legislature once every 2 years to ask for a major building project. Well, what that means is that it would take 122 years, or 124 years, 132 years, something like that, to get all of our buildings renovated. We can't wait that long. We're going to have to put our own money into many of the projects that we need to do. And examples of that are what's going on in science, but there are other examples, smaller examples of that going on the campus all the time. We just need to continue that. How does this differ from Goal 5 in the past? One is Goal 5 in the past basically said contracts and grants was a way to raise money for the general good. Contracts and grants are important, but they are not going to be a general fund revenue source for Indiana State of significance. We need to focus on the overall cost of attendance for our students, not just on tuition. For most of the last 20 or 30 years, tuition was the biggest piece of the cost of attendance at Indiana State and at every other public institution in the country. Today, tuition amounts to only 40%, and my guess is that it's going to be less than that 10 years from now. So while we've paid some attention to the cost of books and some attention to residence hall costs and some attention to the other things that make up the cost of attendance at university, we're going to have to look at all those costs and take some ownership of all those costs going forward. Today, the net cost of attendance at Indiana State is somewhere in the $21,000 a year. And, you know, I would just ask you to think to yourself, if I ask you to write a check for $21,000 today, how many of you would say, okay, that check's going to be good? Not that you want to do it, but how many could write a check for $21,000? That's what the parents of our students are facing, at least many of them. That is backbreaking in many cases. It can't continue to grow. This is a slide that I worked on for the Commission for Higher Education. It shows how students are paying for college. The red line across the top is the total cost of a year of education at Indiana State. It's about $30,000. The bars represent, each bar is for a different family income, for a family of 4. So the bar on the left is a family income of $30,000, and the bar at the far right is family income of $125,000. If we look at the various colors here, the blue is the state appropriation. Every student gets their share of the state appropriation, which is about $7,500 or $8,000 this year. If your income is below in the $30,000 to $40,000 range, you probably also get a state grant if you've done everything right. So if you've done everything right, and you're in that income range, you're probably getting a 21st century scholarship. You are also probably getting a Pell Grant from the federal government. And you can work a little bit. This assumes students are working 10 hours a week at minimum wage. If you add all those things together for the students in that bottom end, they could take a guaranteed student loan and come up with the total cost. Now, I'm not saying in this that students with low family incomes have advantages, because there's a lot of things that they have to do right in order to get to this point. But if they do everything right, they're okay. If you go to the other end of the graph, you can see it gets much more simple. You've got the state appropriation, then you've got a family that's either saved the money or has the borrowing capacity to make up a big piece of the difference. And then you have a student job and you've made the deal. And if you're maybe at $100,000 family income, you're still within shooting range with some family savings, a job, and maybe a small guaranteed student loan. If your family income is in that middle, there's no state grant, there's no Pell Grant. In many cases, there's no ability for the family to save. If you think about a family with an income of $50,000, they're not saving anything for college, unless they are just incredible people, because $50,000 for a family of 4 is right at, well, it's double the poverty level, and I guarantee you none of us want to live on poverty. So we have got to make affordability a primary responsibility for all of us, and we need to try to get the state government and the federal government to take some responsibility for that as well. So goal 5, resources and institutional effectiveness. We want to maintain and grow the state appropriation. We've got to get some growth in the state appropriation over the next decade. We need to build up the acceptance on campus that students can do real work. We have literally hundreds of students, if not a few thousand students, working on campus. Too many of them are not doing as much as they're capable of. We need to give students more responsibility for 2 reasons. One, we need the work done, and second, they need the responsibility and the skills that come from doing it. The only way we're going to be able to continue to grow our student-faculty ratio and our student-staff ratio is if students are hired to do some of this work. We also need to improve and mature our fundraising program. We need more private dollars coming into the institution. If for no other reason, then we need more dollars for student financial assistance. So we're going to be developing high-level jobs for students across campus. So we started that this year with the State Works program. State Works program 4 years from now is going to be 4 times bigger, and some of the students in it are going to be seniors. We need to take advantage of those folks and help them learn more. We need to increase the number of donors to the President's Society. I hope there are a lot of members of the President's Society in this room. If there's not, the foundation people, where are the foundation people? Those people can help you if you'd like to be a member of the President's Society. We need to ensure that IT services is reliable and accessible, which means we have to be thinking all the time about the services we need and measuring our success and giving those folks the resources they need to make sure that happens. We need to continue to develop our Open Educational Resources Initiative. The example this year is that every student taking Communications 101 saved $135 because the faculty in communications got together and found the resources for free on the internet. That saved our students $400,000. We hope to be able to continue that far into the future, and not only that, but find a lot of other classes that we can do that as well. Books are a significant part of the cost of education, and they're the last dollar spent. So the student goes through all the lines and pays all the fees, and they've got, $500 left in their pocket. And they say, well, I can go buy all my books and have no dollars left in my pocket, or I can keep this money in my pocket and I can do other things. Many of them are going to say, I need some money in my pocket. And they don't buy the books. And maybe they find books in the library, and maybe they find things on the internet, but they're not getting the kind of education and preparation that we need them to have. Goal 6, employee success. Willie Banks and Josh Powers are going to lead the effort to attract and retain great employees. This goal is much the same, is probably the one that's the most the same of all of the goals that we have, except we're going to be changing what we measure. We want to make the employee base of this campus look much more like our student base. So we're going to be looking at diversity gaps between our faculty and our students. Some of these measures are fairly sophisticated, so hence the footnotes. If you really want to know what they measure, you should look up those footnotes. But we want to increase the number of women as full professors. That number is far below what women make up our faculty, so we need to figure out how to make that different. It's not something you can change dramatically quickly. So our goal is to modestly change it over the next 5 years, but our vision goal is that the number of women full professors should match the percentage of women in our faculty. We need to increase the retention rate of our faculty and staff. It's expensive to hire new people, and you lose continuity often. So we need to keep people around a longer time. We also need to measure the quality of the educational experience that our students receive, because we're being asked to measure that. The days of being able to say, well, all of our faculty have PhDs and they all went to Ivy League schools and they're all just wonderful, wonderful people, are basically over. They want us, the government and our accreditors want us to measure it other ways. The NESE is one way, but we'll be looking at other ways that we might be able to measure employee quality. So how is it different? Well, it's very similar to last time, but much more emphasis on diversity and an emphasis on trying to measure quality. What are the challenges? The challenges on diversity are huge. African American and Hispanic faculty and administrators are in short supply. Every institution in the country is trying to diversify its employee base, but the number of qualified people to fill those jobs that come from those communities is not what it needs to be. So we can help with that by helping our students be more successful and encourage them to go to graduate school, but otherwise we got to go out and out-compete people, and we're going to have to do that. Some benchmarks are going to be slow to change, and we're going to have to live with that, but we're going to have to make sure that we keep trying and working hard to make sure they do change. We have a number of initiatives. I think one of the things that ties many of these initiatives together is that one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is we need to do a better job of developing leadership skills on campus. I want to be in a position in the not too distant future where we almost never go out on a national search for a department chair, because we've got so many great people that are prepared and want to do that job already on the campus that we don't need to. I think that many of our deans should come within our faculty. Many of the on the administrative side, we want to grow our own. There are people who already love ISU, people who already love living in Terre Haute. Why would we not want to encourage them to be successful here? So we're going to be building programs that can help that happen. Okay, that's the end of Pathways to, there's more to blue. I would ask that each of you, this presentation and all these slides are going to be on the web. Go and look at them. You'll get many opportunities to see them and work on the initiatives. We will be 100% transparent. As Trustee Taylor said, I think one of the reasons we were successful is we weren't bashful about putting our data out for the world to see. And we're going to continue that and make sure that we know where we're being successful and we know where we're struggling, and so does everybody else. But we're going to own that success, and we're going to own that struggle, and we're going to do better going forward. I just wanted to put up in front of you here, these are the metrics that the Commission for Higher Education is using to judge us. As Trustee Campbell pointed out, blue is good here at Indiana State, and red is bad. So you'll notice that as we've gone from 2010 to 2016, we've trended blue. We need to continue to do that over the next 5 or 6 years, and probably the next 5 or 6 years beyond that, because that's how we're going to serve our students and our state. So the big question is, how will we continue to improve and to prove that there is more to blue? Uh-oh. See, I knew I'd mess this up. We'll prove there is more to blue by working together and continuing to improve the experience that our students have here, to improve the chances of them being successful, and to do it in a way that we enjoy our jobs and help each other. That's how we'll be more successful. That's how we'll prove there's more to blue. Thank you very much. My understanding is there is food and drink in the ballroom and in the lounge. And not only that, but those of you who like puzzles, there's a copy of the picture that you can go and find yourself. Now, I'm told that there are some people who are there more than one time because the software liked your picture for some reason. It's not a value judgment. If you're only there once, it's not because you're not loved. It's just that your picture just didn't fit the mosaic quite as well. So thank you for being here. Please enjoy yourself at the reception. I look forward to saying hello.